So the way this works, right, you've got the, hang on, let's just retrieve this for a second. El Cheapo Chinese OBDII connector goes in the comms port, which is usually somewhere, oh, I lost it now. Yeah, underneath the steering column. That plugs in, and then you fire up one of your OBDII capable apps called Talk, which you can get on the Android App Store. At the moment, iPhones are a problem, but check back with us in a few weeks or months and we may have found a way to make it work on iPhones. Anyway, this communicates by Bluetooth to your dongle, and you can set up lots of different screens with different types of data in. It comes pre-programmed with a few. This one is for the real boy racer in you. You can set it to time your quarter eighth of a mile time, your 0 to 60, quarter mile time, 0 to 100k, or you can set that to miles per hour and so on. It roughly calculates your horsepower at the wheels and stuff like that. Anyway, here's one I set up earlier. Hopefully you can see on the dials that some data will start to appear. This is Dummy's car, so I'm going to try not to bash it.
So at the moment, the dials you've got on there, you've virtually picked out everything you can possibly think of, but I imagine if you were going to set this up for yourselves, you'd pick out the ones that are most relevant to yourself.
Yeah, you can specialise. There are quite a few other sensors and things, and not every car will give you the same information, because not every ECU pushes out that information. The compass is supposed to be taking its reading from the phone. Yeah, there we go. So some of these sensors are taking readings from the OBDII device, the ELM327, but some of them, like the this is the G sensor over there, is taking readings from your phone mainly, and then some of these sensors combine data from both, which is where you get your torque calculations. For the torque calculation on this app, you have to put in information about your the weight of your vehicle and stuff like that, so that it can get the calculations fairly accurately. But of course they're all wrong, so we haven't set them up for this car or for having both a geek and dummy on board.
And we were expecting quite a delay between the OBDII connection and the tablet, but it seems to be, milliseconds, doesn't it? It's quite fast.
It's not noticeable that there's any lag. So the RPM is reading almost exactly what the onboard RPM is reading.
Right.
Possibly more accurately as well.
We could test the G sensor, but then you'd have to go around a corner and I think the tablet would fly off.
Well, let's see what happens, eh? HP up to 120 odd it's reading. And we would recommend that you are always safe on the roads anyway, so don't exceed the speed limit. That's why my speedo is reading 30 miles an hour at all times.
Yeah, I can edit that later, don't worry.
We've got a different app to show as well, once we've done this. This is all the live data, but of course once you've got your live data streaming out of your OBDII sensor, there are other uses that you can put it to. So once it's safe to operate the tablet, I'll have to pull over to do that, comply with the laws of the land. We can demonstrate an app that makes use of the onboard camera as well. You can theoretically, unfortunately this tablet doesn't have a 3G card, so we can't get the live data on it, and I've not paired it with my phone, but you can theoretically overlay your camera with a Google Maps layout with the sensor data as well, and you can record all of that. So for example, if you were doing a track day, you can look at the live data as it was streaming from your OBDII sensor and show your position on the track and the speed that you were doing. And now the Talk app does have this as a plug-in, which I'll briefly show you. Track recorder. But the problem with the Talk app at the moment, and this is some feedback that they're getting, is that the apps, the little widgets, are tiny. It's really been designed for a phone, so that's no use at all. So we'll exit from that app and use another one which is called A-Lap Recorder HD. There is a demo version of it. You can pay if you want the full version. This app, unfortunately, looks like this has been abandoned, more or less. And unfortunately, it's pointing at the bonnet. Right, how's that?
That's good.
So can you see that?
Yeah, that's good.
So we've got a few widgets that are going to be showing acceleration, lateral g-force, lap times and stuff like that, and speed, theoretically. Don't point at the speed one.
That looks a more useful one. I kind of like that, overlaying the footage as well. And that records it as well, did you say?
And so we can now record this. If I hit the record button, we are now recording. Okay.
So that'll record that footage and overlay that telemetry over the top of it.
Exactly. So you get the video of not just the what's being streamed from the camera, but you also get the video of what's being recorded from the sensor. The sensor's telling me that we're currently doing 160 miles per hour, which I assure you is not correct. So there's obviously an issue there. I think maybe I've not paired it with the sensor, but you can see how this works in theory. So if you're doing this properly, you set it up with a decent mount, so that you can point the camera exactly where you want it, so that your tablet's not going to go flying off the dashboard if you go too fast around the hairpin bend.
That's quite impressive telemetry from something that's so cheap, though, isn't it, really? And all you need is a piece of kit that most people are going to have these days, a tablet or a phone.
Well, exactly, and some of these apps are free. The Talk app is about a £5, but it's worth every penny, to be honest. And the great thing about that app is it's not just the live feeds, but it also reads fault codes from your car. So
all right, well, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So instead of going down to the main dealer and paying 50 quid for them to put it on the bench, you can plug in this sensor, which costs 6 quid from eBay, get any one of a number of free apps that read these fault codes. So let's pull over again and just demonstrate this. With a bit of luck, there'll be no fault codes in the front of the car, but who knows. So let's swap to this other app. Just going to save that recording from there. So there's another app here called Carista, which you can use to check faults. Turn on Bluetooth, connect to the device. Vehicle's ready for emission testing. No faults found. That's good, isn't it?
So you can go into a garage and pay 20 quid sometimes, can't you, just for them to put it on a fault reader?
Or more. I mean, my main dealer, my VW main dealer, would charge £40 or £50 to do that.
Right.
But once you've got your sensor, which the plug-in dongle, which is only £6 or something, I know they're from China and the quality might vary, but this one, cheap as chips and has been perfect, and then this free app. But not only that, you've got that for the rest of your life, and the OBD port, the OBD2 port, is standard in all vehicles from, let's say, 1999 or something like that. So you could use that exact same dongle in all your friends' cars and all your family's cars and check their faults. You can even reset fault codes.
So that's impressive, because that's the thing that costs a lot of money sometimes, isn't it?
So if you know you've had the work done and you've got an engine warning, an engine management light on your dashboard, but you know you've fixed it, you replaced the faulty sensor or whatever, then you can use this app to reset clear the fault without paying an hour's labour at a garage to have that done. So it pays for itself anyway, the first time you use it.
Your at-home mechanic these days, it's become a bit of a black art, isn't it, to get into your engine and find out what might be wrong. But if you can get these engine codes and you can go on the internet to work out what might be wrong, and then indeed, replace the sensor yourself, because very often that's quite easy to do, but then reset the code afterwards.
That's right. I mean, I don't want to rip off any mechanics by any means if they are earning an honest living, but this is not something that requires any skill. You can just plug the device in and get your info, and you don't have to pay £1,000 for a dedicated kit for a particular make and model of vehicle either. So there you go, for a tenner, you got more data than you can shake a stick at.
basically is the ECU, the little computer in the engine, that's monitoring all these things with a variety of sensors and feeding it all back to this OBD connection, and then there's some software in the tablet that can interpret that and replay it to you visually.
Yeah, absolutely right.
That was so easy.